Hello, and we are so glad to have you here today, and we are so fortunate that we have a guest today, such as Officer Neesmith. This is Officer Tyrez Neesmith with the Conway, South Carolina Police Department.
Yes, sir.
I like to brag about what an expert you are on cybersecurity, and guess what we're going to talk about today? Can you believe cybersecurity, cyber warfare, all these kind of things, maybe bullying as well. Tell us, because I want the people to know you. Where are you from originally?
I grew up on the Myrtle Beach Air Force Base here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
So your father was in the military, in the Air Force?
Yes, sir.
Well, how about that? So you decided not to pursue a career in the Air Force?
No, sir.
But I heard a rumor about you. I heard that after you graduated from high school, and that was Conway High School, correct?
Yes, sir.
That after you graduated from high school, you went in the Marine Corps. Is that true?
I did.
What did you do in the Marine Corps?
I did aviation electronics.
Was your father somewhat annoyed with you because you didn't go in the Air Force instead?
Oh, no. Everybody in our family is in the military, so it doesn't matter which branch you choose.
No kidding. So you decided to not make a career in the military?
Yes.
And you came back, you told me, I think, once you were in Japan?
Oh, no.
Where were you
I was
stationed?
only stateside. I didn't leave the country.
Oh, really? No kidding. So after being in the Marine Corps, you decided to return to Conway?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. And since having returned to Conway, you've been here ever since, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. And I'm curious, before you became a police officer, you pursued another career path, and what was that?
I went into banking.
You know, that's got to be the perfect background for police work.
A little bit. I had no intention of going to law enforcement. That just happened.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Well, now tell us, okay, so you're working in the bank, you're minding your business, life is good. How in the world did you get talked into getting into police work?
I had a friend, and he was a police officer. He was in the Navy, actually, and he just said, I think you'd be good, we're hiring. So fill out an application, and the rest is history.
How about that? So how long have you been with the police department?
Almost 16 years.
No kidding, wow. So I assume since you've been a police officer, you've had occasion to do all sorts of different tasks in the police department. Mm-hmm. Before you came into this present work you're doing, and we'll get into that in just a second, what other jobs did you have in the police department?
Like everybody else, I started off as a patrol officer, and then I was a patrol supervisor as a corporal on the road. And then I got promoted to detective, where I was there for 8 years, and now I am over, we just launched a new program called the Senior Watch Program, as well as I'm over special events.
The senior watch?
Senior Watch, and I'm over special events at the police department.
Now, what does that mean, senior watch and special events, for? Because I really don't know what that means.
The Senior Watch Program is a new program that we started. There are a bunch that other agencies around the nation also have, but basically we check on some of our elderly who don't have anyone to check on them, just to give them a call or go by their home just to put eyes on them. That way they're not just left without anybody, just to see about their well-being. We have two different programs. One, like I said, we can just call them once a week, or the other one that they can opt and have us come by the home.
I've never heard of this. I mean, so do people have to call you and say, hey, would you check on my mom? Is that how that works?
They fill out an application either online, or they can come to the police department, and then if we accept their application, if they're put into the program, because there's a criteria that they need to fit, and then we enter them into
Well, now what's this special events or whatever you call it?
any event that we have in the city of Conway, like our Christmas program, our Christmas parade, I'm sorry. Goodness, we have so many, it's hard to just think off the top of my head, but pretty much any event that we have that needs police there. Matter of fact, we have Riverfest coming up. That would be another event that we just kind of organize and help put together.
So you're the one that makes sure there's enough police presence for these kinds of events, and you're the one that if there's any intelligence that comes in about somebody trying to create havoc there, you're the one that finds out about it and kind of tries to anticipate these things. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
There's a lot of stress associated with that kind of work.
Not really. I'm used to it.
Well, now you and I have talked so much about this whole current social media, cyber issues and all of that. How does that relate to the Senior Watch and the special events?
Well, it doesn't relate to my special events. With Senior Watch, this would be something that the people that are in my program, talk with them about. Now, I'm also over Crime Watch meetings as well. So, in dealing with that, most people that come to Crime Watch meetings are my seniors. I don't have too many young people that come, but we can provide them with information about cybersecurity, making sure that their electronic devices are protected, as well as scams that are going on, to kind of arm them with a little bit of information so that they don't fall prey to these scammers out there.
You know what? I'm going to get into in just a minute in far more detail, but just from an overall perspective, you were just talking about scammers and these kind of people. How do you maintain a balance when you do the kind of work you do and you see the kind of evil people that are out there in society preying on innocent people? Excuse me. How do you maintain your balance and not just become totally cynical about just life and people in the world? I mean, it's hard to do, isn't it?
It is. I'm gonna be honest. We're jaded as law enforcement officers. We're a little cynical sometimes. I will admit that. You just have to take the time out to, take a breather, take a walk, whatever you believe in. I pray a lot. I just started yoga. Me and my kids, we exercise. So you do whatever you got to do for that mental break. But, do whatever you can.
Well, now you just mentioned something I was going to ask about. I think our viewers would like to know. You have children. Mm-hmm. And how many children do you have, and what are their ages?
I have 3, and then I have a bonus daughter. So I have a 25-year-old, a 23-year-old, a 19-year-old, and an 11-year-old.
You're a busy lady.
A little bit.
Well, now, you watch all of this, you've watched in your life, and you see how it has affected your children. And in this Families Taking Charge program, one of the things we want people to know is what kind of exposure are their children and their families having to this social media and cyber bullying and cyber issues. You run into this constantly, do you not?
A lot. Yes, sir.
Not only with your own children, but in your work, correct?
Yes, sir.
Tell us some of the activities you engage in to try to educate people on the issues they ought to worry about when it comes to this whole cyber issue.
Well, I will say this, a lot of the police departments, our local departments, they put out PSAs, public services announcements, to educate people, especially when we have, I think Horry County Sheriff's Department usually has put it out a lot because their name is used in a lot of scams where they will call you and tell you have a warrant out for your arrest and, you send us money, we won't come do it. So PSAs go out. We do a lot of outreach with civic organizations, anything that we can do. We'll come to your church. We do sound off radio, sort of like this type of demographic. Anything that we can do to get the information out is what we'll do.
Do you speak to young people or groups of young people?
I do.
And you mean like at school or things like that?
Most time organizations will have us come to their churches or to whatever event that they have. We don't really do too much in schools. It might be an event that's held at a school, but it is not in the school.
I see. So what do you want, just an overall brushstroke, what would you want parents to know about what they need to be, what is the main thing parents need to know with respect to their children and this whole issue of their cell phones and the social media contacts and all those things? What would you want parents to know? Well,
the biggest thing is you need to know everything that you can, and I know that's a very broad term. What I'm getting at is the cyberbullying that we have out there. The only way you're going to know is if you got to go through your kid's phone, whether you...
Wait a minute, let me get this right. Did I hear you just say go through your kids' phones?
Yes, I did.
Well, what about their privacy?
I don't believe in that. Everybody has to resolve all issues how they feel, but right now predators are winning because we are fighting a battle of whether or not our children should have privacy. If they have too much privacy, you're leaving them open to the people. They have access to them. Everybody has a cell phone. Babies have cell phones now, and that is an open door. So if you're not going to either take the time, I promise you that these predators are going to do it. So you got to get over that. Talk to your kids, have an open dialogue. My children have always shown me everything that comes to them. They know they have to give me their phone. I instill that early. It is kind of hard to try to push this whenever they're 16 and you haven't done anything. But always start. If you hadn't do it, start today. Look at what they're getting on their phone, who they're talking to, and also empower them with knowledge. One of the biggest thing is, has anybody ever asked you to, dance for them and take your clothes off? Those things people are so hooked on, just the norm. Ask those questions that are not normal, because that's how they're getting them. Has anybody told you that you sound so much mature for your age? Those should be trigger words to a kid that if you teach them that, when they see that, it should automatically be like, wait a minute, my mom told me something about this. Let me pay a little bit of attention. And of course, if anybody sends you any naked photos, bring it to me, your parent, bring it to, if you're at school resource officers, to a teacher, have it documented. That way, you're aware of the situation and you can handle it. You can file a police report, do whatever that you need to do to protect your child.
Let me get this right. Your children don't know when you're just going to suddenly demand to see their cell phone. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
And so what do you do when you take their cell phone? What are you looking for?
I look through their search history, what they've been looking at.
What about all their passwords?
I have all their passwords.
How do you get their passwords?
They give them to me.
How do you know they've given you all their passwords?
They don't have a choice. Again, the way my family and most law enforcement, we're about the same way. And there are some other people, I'm not downing anybody, but we start this dialogue early, and that's only because I know the harm that's out there in this world, all the evil. So my children knew at an early age, we established that trust relationship where it doesn't seem like I'm coming to take something from them. It is something that I've given you, it belongs to me, and I need to see it to protect you.
So your child does not know that, you don't have a regular inspection date like every Thursday at 6 o'clock, but it may be Monday at 8 in the morning, it may be Wednesday at 7 at night. At any time, you just do a random check of their phone.
Right, me and their dad. And a good indicator, I guess, to tell parents is if you notice that your child behavior changes, all of a sudden they're in the room all the time. They're in the bathroom all the time, or they're sitting out in your car, or they don't want to come. All of a sudden, behavior changes. You might need to see what's going on. They could even be just cyberbullied. It might not even be a predator type thing. It could just be people are bothering them. That's something you need to know about. If your children are being cyberbullied, then absolutely, file a report, find out what's going on, because that can have an emotional, it could be very detrimental to their emotional status. And, you want your child to be healthy and happy. And if people are making them feel bad constantly, that's not a good thing.
It might be helpful for some of our families listening to hear some examples from you of what some cyberbullying type cases are. Is there a typical case, and how does it happen? How does it work?
I think everybody can remember everybody got bullied in elementary school, middle school, high school. It's the same exact thing. It's just done online. And unfortunately now, there have been some mainstream cases where parents are bullying kids. So, it starts off as something innocent, like, well, I heard you said something about me, or you said something about my family, and then it just kind of escalates. So, it's okay to have an argument. There's nothing wrong with that. But when it's repeated, they keep coming and degrading and harassing. Now we're into bullying, and that needs to be stopped.
What are some ways it can be stopped?
File a police report. I know a lot of people don't like to immediately come to us, and that's fine. If it's to the level that you feel comfortable, that you can go talk with if it's a teenager type thing, talk with their parents. If that doesn't work, then absolutely, I would file a police report. If it's on school grounds, you can talk to the school resource officer, the principal, anybody. But, I would say at least file a report so you have it documented. That way, if it keeps escalating, you have a paper trail, as opposed to, if it gets bad, you're trying to recall from memory what happened. So I would say do any and everything you can to bring peace in your household.
I was, can't recall who it was, but someone was telling me about someone they knew, just this husband and wife, and they think everything is fine. The next thing they know, their daughter's run off, and she's gotten, they track her down and found out she took a bus to San Antonio. How do you know? What are some signs that you can start looking for to know that, it happened because this girl was talking to somebody on a social media site. Tell us a little more about that kind of thing and how that works.
Well, that is almost in the line of human trafficking, and that's getting back to the predators. It's a slippery slope, and the reason why I say that is it's not hard. And I say that not just as my own opinion. Whenever we've talked to recovered victims, survivors, as they call them now, who have been rescued from human trafficking, a lot of them will tell you it just started off with just a basic compliment. You know, these people are not dumb. We've taught the scary man syndrome to our children. It's the nice people. We need to teach them also. It's the kind person. And it's still the same. Nothing in this world has changed. You've heard it a lot of things. There's nothing new under the sun. The same stuff that they were telling, little kids and women back then is the same stuff they're telling them now. You're so mature for your age. How are you doing? Well, tell me this. They're easy to get their information. It's easily, they let their guard down because it's not a person. It's a screen. So they're not as on guard. So they are left open. So the best thing to combat that is you got to have an open dialogue. Google everything about human trafficking. There's a bunch of websites out there. I think it's humantrafficking.org. Don't quote me on that. But look up anything that you can. The behavior changes are going to be one of the biggest things. If your child, you provide for your middle school kid and some of your high school kids, all of a sudden they're wearing very expensive clothes or they have money that's unaccounted for, you need to find out where that's coming from. It could be a live person at school or it could be somebody that's enticing them. Make sure that they're not sending transactions or accepting transactions. Luckily, you have to do that with your 18, but nowadays you never know. But anything about your child's behavior that changes, because there's going to be a change, and if you're going through their phone, you'll kind of see some of these conversations as what they're having with people, the information that they're giving out to people. Make sure you don't tell people where you live. I know when we grew up, that was something you did not do. You do not tell nobody where you live. You meet them at the park or wherever. Now, everybody sends their location to everybody. It's become such a thing that nobody thought about. Teach your kids, don't send your location. Do not, when your friends come pick you up, most of the time back in the day, you meet them at the end of the block or something, or at a friend's house. Now, send your location, they come pick them up. So talk to them about going places, meeting strangers, people that you do not know. Even if you've seen, if you hadn't had a video chat, you don't get on a bus and go nowhere. You think you shouldn't have to tell your kid that. You don't go and catch a flight nowhere. Don't let nobody come pick you up from nowhere. Don't go meet somebody. There's a gentleman, I can't remember his name, I wish I did. He actually works with parents to see if your child, put your child to the test. I think Dateline 2020 did one of those shows. Bunch of confident parents. Oh, no, not my kid. And he talked to himself in pretty much every house. And it was very eye-opening. He has a lot of videos on YouTube and stuff. You can find them. They even got the high school kids. Little girl came out the house, and of course, when the kid gets in the van, the parents are sitting there, and the dad went off 11 o'clock at night. She climbs out the window and gets in the van. Imagine how much that really happens. It's scary. So constantly talk to your kids. I know it is annoying to have to do it. Even my kids are like, here we go again.
Your parents didn't have to do all that stuff.
Yes, they did. My mom taught me a lot.
Well, they didn't have the social media things.
We didn't have social media, but remember Different Strokes? And all those shows, remember with the boys, what happened to them? My mom and my grandmother and my grandfather and my parents were very close-knit, and they've always been big on talking. Education is power, so they let us know, about, good touch, bad touch. That was a popular thing back then. Opening the door. I was a latchkey kid, just like everybody else. You don't open the door for anybody. Well, we didn't. You just didn't. But now, the inhibitions have been lowered, so kids are taking more risk than we did. We knew. Street light come on, where were you supposed to be? At home. Right. How many kids abide by that now?
Yeah.
You just knew, so, okay, time to go.
Right.
They don't do that anymore. So society has changed, but the game is still the same. So we just need to get back to what we already know as parents, that same conversation we had, and just add a little bit to it, just tweak it a little bit.
Well, children resent generally when boundaries are set for them. I mean, if you say to your child, okay, clean up your room, and it must be clean by 12 o'clock noon on Saturday, they complain. But deep down inside, don't they feel more secure when these boundaries are set?
They do. Statistics has been thoroughly vetted and everything. Kids, they need boundaries, and they are successful in boundaries and rules. So I've dealt with a lot of kids dealing with Department of Juvenile Justice, and 9 out of 10, majority of the kids will tell me, I only do this because my mom lets me get away with it. Why do you keep running away? Because I get away with it. But the kids, that parents put their foot down where they're at home where they're supposed to be. So,
but don't a lot of parents feel that, oh my goodness, I'm harming my child by imposing all these restrictions, like on the use of their cell phone and social media activities and all that? Don't a lot of parents, they're made to feel guilty about being that kind of attentive parents, are they not?
I agree, and that just goes back to, you got to know who you are and what do you want as your children. A lot, my circle of friends pretty much have the same value system that I do. I can't hang out with those people that I'll just let my kid just be a free child. They can go over there. Won't do that. I'm not that type of parent, and I'm not telling anybody listening to this to this cast to be like me at all. However, you do what works for you, and if your child can be that way, still you need to talk to your free-range children. You still need to talk to your children that want to push back on boundaries because you're doing it for their safety. I would much rather have my child be upset at me because I went through their phone and was able to find out what's going on, as opposed to I can't find my kid. Can y'all go find him? Crying on TV, doing a press release about can you bring my kid home? You got to balance them out. Which one is the lesser of two? They will get over it. They will not die if you if you go through their phone. I promise you, they will live a healthy adult life. But somehow I agree. We've got parents scared to be parents, and that unfortunately is swinging the pendulum back to the predators into their favor. So we need to take that power back.
One of the things that significantly has changed is that I understand now there's a lot of sexting on the cell phones. Mm-hmm. These are obviously not things that happen. Well, I'll let you talk for yourself. When I was a child, clearly there were no cell phones, so
Same here.
This wasn't an issue. What would be your advice to teenagers who might be listening to this program about what you put on that social media site?
Well, what we like to tell everybody, anytime I've spoken to any youth, I always tell them when you put it out there, it's there. There's no way to delete it. I can get it. And that goes for Snapchat and the various other apps that are out there it'll delete. I can get it.
Let me get this right. I want to make sure we said this. Are you saying that whatever somebody put on their phone, even though they hit delete, you can go back and retrieve?
About 99% of the things we can retrieve if we do a cell phone dump. But what I want them to understand is when you put it out there in cyberspace, I'm not sure if you know this or not, but most people listen to it as well. Most people screenshot things, especially things that are salacious. It's like, because they know you're probably going to delete it. So when you put those naked photos out there and you send those, private area pictures, usually to a girlfriend or somebody that you like, may just be a stranger, they're there, and people tend to like to hold on to them, and that's why you have sites that, there's one, it used to be called Revenge. I can't remember. If you want to take revenge on your boyfriend or girlfriend, they break up with you, you take all the pictures that they took and send it to them, and now everybody in the world can see it. So we try to tell people, what you send out there is out there. You can't say it's deleted, so just don't send it. I also, as a cautionary tell teenagers, if you receive one, there again, take it to your parents, take it to teachers, somebody you trust, have it documented, especially when it comes to my 17 and 18-year-old little boys, because if a 12-year-old sends you a photo, that's obscene material. And, they'll get it and delete it and go on, but then it's still on her phone, and when her parents go through it and they're like, oh, wow, there's a picture, of a private area of a guy or a girl, okay, now they file a police report, meanwhile you just deleted it. So I always tell them, take it to your parent, let it be documented. Even if you just do a police report, it's documented that way. On the other side, if we come knocking at your door, your son received or your daughter received, you can say, nope, we documented it and we deleted it, we filed a police report. That kind of saves them from having to get charged with something that they really did not intend to get. But also we tell them, don't send, don't ask. And I even tell grown-ups, be careful those pictures and videos that you get, because you don't know the age of the person that's on the other end. There are a lot of girls, just like since the beginning of time, they want to be older. So you think you're talking to, an 18, 19-year-old girl, and it might be a 15-year-old little girl. So just be careful of what you're receiving or even asking for. But that is the norm, unfortunately. Sexting is the big thing. Usually within the first conversation, those pictures are going forth. So there again, talk to your kids about, keeping private, things that are covered with clothes, covered. You can send a picture of your face, it's just as pretty. Look at the shoes I wore today. Yeah. Everybody posts what they eat. You don't have to post things that are covered by clothes. Leave that to whenever you get bigger.
Well, if somebody at the age of 16 puts a picture of themselves out there that's inappropriate, they don't normally understand that when they go apply for a job many years later, But that stuff's still out there where some human resource officer can turn it up, correct?
Right, and that's what I was getting to with those screenshots. You know, we all go to high school. You tend to see these people later on, and there comes that picture because somebody somewhere always screenshots it. Because I love when people are arguing on, it could just be something about, like, say, your dog. You didn't pick up after your dog. And before this argument gets at the bottom, everybody, they start deleting it. It'll pop right back up. Everybody posts pictures of the whole argument. So, you know, everything that you put out there, it can mess you up in college. It can mess you up, you know, with jobs, like you say. It's a lot that can come back to haunt you. So if you don't put it out there, it can't be used against you.
In your years as a police officer, are you seeing an increasing frequency of these kinds of social media type cases that you have to find yourself involved in?
We are, because that's the world we live in now. Especially now with COVID going on, that's our big thing since 2020. Everybody was at home. So everything has increased almost, I would say, more than 50%. Screen times went from, you know, like 10 or 20% up to 40 and 50 because everybody was home. Everybody was on TikTok. I was too, I ain't gonna lie. It was a good, just a good distraction. But yeah, everybody's on their screen for everything. It used to be the computer was only for homework. Now your cell phone is your computer and you have it 24/7. So
there are, as I understand, different vulnerabilities that different age groups have, that seniors have different vulnerabilities on social media, like the call, we've got your grandson over here in jail, come bring us, you know, come wire us $1,000 or whatever. And then middle-aged people have different issues. I guess pornography is probably one of the big ones. But then you have the young people. And today we're talking about the young people. And later on, it is my hope that we can do some shows dealing with both the middle-aged and the elderly and their potential exposure with the use of inappropriate use of social media.
absolutely.
But focusing on children before we end this segment, I do want to go back and stress over and over again what are the real vulnerabilities that children have with the social media platforms that are out there. I mean, you've talked about a number of them, but would you like to add or to any of these areas that you find children are most vulnerable to?
Right now, the number one is cyberbullying. The number two, I would say, would just be prey for human trafficking. They are very vulnerable and they are left open because, you know, like you say, back in the day, to see porn, you had to kind of find some magazines. Now it's boom, it's a Google search. So with the younger kids, definitely use every type of security measure that's in their cell phones. They're usually already there. You can also look for apps that can send you alerts that they're looking at things they shouldn't be. I would do that all the way up to my middle school kids. And they high school kids going to get a little different because by then you want to teach them independence. But still, that is dialogue with them. Have them, you should have already had it when they were younger, but if for whatever reason you didn't, start that dialogue, talk to them, explain to them, look up any type of, they have a bunch of parent sites, you know, just ideas of how you can open that dialogue about, has anybody contacted you that you don't know? You know, making sure that people that they talk to is somebody. My general rule is your friend is somebody you can go to their home. You either been to their church, home, you know their parents. If you don't know the three of the above, then that's not your friend. That is an acquaintance. Explain that to them. That way they're not giving so much information to acquaintances or strangers as opposed to, you know, friends. Make sure that they know when they go to a place, don't tell everybody where you're going. You can tell everybody where you've been. That's what I've always told my kids. When we get home, post all you want to, but don't tell anybody before and don't tell anybody while we're there. It would have been, we went to Disney World last week. We're not posting while we're there. Just little strategies that you can do to help protect them and help them just to be aware at all times of the information they're giving out, what school they go to. You don't want to give all that. This is where we live. If they take a picture of the home, make sure the address is not in the background. Just anything to help make them just start being aware. It'll help them be more successful as they get older so they don't fall prey to things. And then definitely my high school kids, go ahead and start talking to them about the scammers. You know, we don't want them to fall prey to the IRS scam. We don't want them to fall prey to, you know, sending money to help, you know, to buy a car, you know, or buying things online. That is one of our biggest issues we're having, that, you know, you buy a cell phone or buy some sneakers and you meet them somewhere and then you either get robbed or the person just takes your money and disappears. So talk to them about that, any type of money exchanges, because that's when they're starting to get jobs, they're getting credit card offers. go ahead and explain some of that things to them so they don't come prey to anything.
Let me sort of wind up this segment with a concern I have for parents. Parents are really busy. They're trying to earn a living. Both the husband and wife have jobs, and their jobs require a lot of their time and attention. And maybe their jobs are jobs that don't involve a general knowledge of current technology. Maybe they need to know that particular software program for that particular job they're doing, but they don't know about these extra sites that have popped up, all these things. You talked about sites that parents could go to learn about questions to ask. Are there sites out there where parents can go to learn what's the latest in app technology or various kinds of media outlets that these children would know about that the parents wouldn't know about?
There are. I know even Georgetown Tech for a while, I know with COVID, a lot of things changed. They used to put on a class for parents that you could take that would teach you all the websites. Horry County Sheriff's Department, Lieutenant Sherry Smith, she does a lot of stuff with human trafficking. She does that. I do it as well. Most of the time, you can just call the police department, and you can either have us come talk to your kid, you can bring them by. Church and civic groups, you can reach out to us. We have no problem coming by, and I'm pretty sure any police department wouldn't have any problem. And if they already have something that's about to go on, check your events page for wherever you live, because most of the time we're already doing those things, and you can come join. They're always free, just come by and just get the information.
Wow. It's so, to me, from my perspective, it is so much more difficult to be a parent today than 20 years ago or 40 years ago or that kind of thing, because parents today have so much responsibility with respect to the exposure their children are having. Any final words you would like to pass on to parents or children about this whole topic we've been discussing?
I guess the best word that I would say is just be patient, because it is a lot of knowledge, so don't overwhelm yourself. But, just kind of look, it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. It can just be simple, just a simple conversation. My grandmother always taught us, take them to eat. So whatever their favorite food is, take to McDonald's, get some ice cream, whatever it is, because something about food makes you talk. And then just have that dialogue, talk to them. You'd be surprised at what they know. A lot of elementary kids could probably make you red in the face of some of the things they already know, and you're holding back, like, I don't want to give them too much, and they might know. So talk, open dialogue to find out where they're at and what they already know, and then take it from there, but you got to talk to them. I
will share this as a final anecdote. My wife and I kind of laugh with each other when there's something we don't understand. Hey, where's that 12-year-old or 14-year-old that lives next door? Let's get them over here. They can show us all this stuff.
They sure can.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate what you're doing. And by the way, as a police officer, I am just so impressed with what you do, and I want you to know how much we thank you for what you're doing.
I thank you for your support.
Thanks.